The 39th match of the ODI World Cup final is being currently played between Australia, once upon a time the world champion Australia, and Afghanistan at the Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. Afghanistan won the toss and chose to bat. That's interesting. The key changes: Naveen-ul Haq replaced Fazal Haq Farooqi for Afghanistan, and Australia brought in Glenn Maxwell and Mitchell Marsh in place of Steve Smith and Cameron Green. Someone said that Steve Smith is suffering from vertigo. Ibrahim Zardan scored Afghanistan's first World Cup century, his fourth in ODIs. Omar Zai, 22 runs. Hashmatullah Shahidi, 26 runs. Ramanullah Gurbaz, 21 runs were notable wickets. Australia's power play strategy and Glenn Maxwell's tight over helped set the tone. Gurbaz's risky shot in the 8th over led to his dismissal, with Afghanistan at 46 runs after 10 overs. Well, we have a panel of eminent guests right now. In the studio is Tasmeen Granger. Tasmeen, what's the update right now as we speak? And then we'll open it to our dear friend Paul, who joins us from Australia, and Chris from Bulawayo.
Yeah, so good evening to you all. Currently, Afghanistan are 262 for the loss of 5 wickets. They still have 1.3 overs to go, Obviously, they started a bit slow today in the first power play, but managed to pick up their tempo a bit in the second. For me, they've just been consistent throughout their innings today, not really giving out much wickets, but not entirely, scoring the big shots and going for the big hits as well.
Well, I'll go back straight to our legend, Christopher Pofu from Zimbabwe. Of course, he's played international cricket for Zimbabwe for over 15 years. He's still very active at the Veterans League. Chris, happy to have you back. What do you think? The bowling was better, or the batting was very cautious when they played?
Good evening to everyone, and afternoon this side. For me, I felt like the batting was cautious, and that's something that I've started to enjoy about Afghanistan. I think they know their limitations and they know who they are playing also. So for me, I thought the Australians bowled quite well, but also at the same time, you give credit to the Afghanistanis. They knew that they can't go as hard as they want. And for me, the score that they have at the moment, I'm pretty happy with that. I always talk about competitive score. So far, for me, that score is actually very competitive considering the bowlers that they have.
Well, absolutely. The score is competitive. Let's ask Paul. Paul, our podcaster, cricket journalist, and a dear friend and a great watcher of the game. Paul, what do you make of the total? Do you think Australians were bang on their money, straight onto the bowling at the right levels? Your views?
I think Afghanistan are doing very well. In commentary just before the game, Ricky Ponting made the point that chasing anything on this pitch can be quite difficult. And he said if they can get 280 with their bowling attack, then it's going to be very difficult for Australia to win. And not only are they going to get 280, they're probably going to get slightly more. As an Australian fan, I was a little bit disappointed that we were quite content to give away a lot of singles in those middle overs. And I think that there was a feeling by the Australians that, we're containing them, that's good. But I think that they needed to pull an extra couple of fielders into the circle, put some pressure on, stop allowing those easy singles, and try to keep this total a little bit lower. Because as things stand, my main hope is that maybe the pitch isn't going to do as much as it has done in previous games. Because if it does, then I think Afghanistan are starting to forge towards a bit of an upset here.
Absolutely. It looks like it. Do you sense an upset? Because what we see in this match, Australia has already used 7 bowlers.
There's an eminent prospect of an upset. I've got a bit of a nervous night ahead. It's almost, it's getting pretty late here in Sydney, so yes. I'm going to be up all night watching it. And one of the things that always gets me going is Australia in the subcontinent against quality spin. Our middle order gets exposed and we lose wicket after wicket. I could see a situation where we start quite well and then all of a sudden, bang, Rashid Khan causes some havoc. I hope that I'm wrong.
Well, I don't know what the fans are hoping, but let's understand from Tasmeen. Tasmeen, you've been rooting for Afghanistan. They've got 4 quality spinners. Do you think that we are up for an eminent upset, as our friend calls it?
Yeah, definitely. I think we've said that Afghanistan's one team, for me personally, that's come into this World Cup breaking just your traditional barriers and your traditional understanding of what's supposed to be happening in a 50-over game. I don't think a lot of teams have ever walked onto the pitch fielding 4 spin bowlers and 1 seam bowler, if anything. Again, they do have the fact that they have played in India quite a few times on their side as well, so they would have a good clue about what they're doing coming into the game this way. For me, I think it's brilliant. You know, Josh Ingles has been dismissed twice already so far in this World Cup against spin, as well as it happening for him previously in his previous game as well. So I think if the Australians don't heed and take a card from the Afghanistan players today with a bit of caution and just come into their innings expecting to do crazy things, they might just find themselves falling short today. We know that Afghanistan as well is not shy to open the bowling with Mujib up front and just give him the new ball and see what chaos he can cause.
Absolutely chaos or destruction, that you couldn't call it. And what let's ask Christopher. My memory goes of a spinner opening the bowling attack for India or for any team was 1992 World Cup, Deepak Patel rolling his arms and getting the ball in, darting at the batters and the openers and causing a little bit of havoc. Chris, what is your memory? When was the last time you saw a spinner or a team actually walking into the World Cup match with 4 bowlers, spinners rather?
It's been quite a long time, and that's a lot of guts also to see a team just bring a lot of spinners in a game. But for me, I still think they are world-class spinners, so I'm definitely with them, and I'm rooting for them. Like I said before the World Cup started, I will see a lot of upsets in this World Cup, and so far I'm pretty happy with what we talked about, that we'll see a lot of them, and today could be another one that we're waiting for.
You know, this team heavily relies on innovation and completely just tries to unsettle the players, unsettle the opposition. Do you think this is one of the ploy that they have, or they could just completely open with 2 spinners from one end? Maybe that's also a part of the World Cup, like we saw something yesterday, a World Cup of world record of sorts of getting a timeout.
For me, I'm sure that we might be getting a proper spin attack from both ends. That's one thing I think might happen. So it's something that we're looking forward to seeing, and how also Australians will approach it, whether they will go hard at it or they will take it easy.
Well, Paul, 2 spinners, Adam Zampa and Glenn Maxwell, bowled 10 overs, Adam for 58 and 1 wicket, Maxwell for 55 runs and 1 wicket. How do you rate that bowling attack on a pitch like Wankhede in the afternoon?
Yeah,
of course.
No, it was serviceable. It was decent. But I think what's lacking was the wickets. And I think that, as I said before, that the fielding positions and the lack of aggression contributed to that. As we speak, Zimbabwe are surging up, and it looks like Australia's going to have to get something in the order of 300. So I think that the thing that the Australian spinners is that they are generally very economical, and with Zampa maybe being the exception, they're not as dangerous as the Afghan spinners. That the Afghan spinners are, high quality bowlers that can tear a side to shreds. The Australian spinners are a little bit more on the side of conserving runs, and I think that's where the difference lies.
Well, absolutely. Paul, one broader question to the entire thing. A greatest player like Sachin Tendulkar walks into your training session and talks and spends like a couple of hours with the players, talks to them, gives them some tips. What is the kind of mindset of Afghan players would be after talking to Sachin Tendulkar? And you know, it's his home ground, everybody's no matter which team plays, the chances are largely of Sachin. What do you think it does to a side like Afghanistan?
It would be such a thrill. And if I was an Afghan player, it would make me think we've made it. We are on the big time stage here now. We have proven to the world that we have taken that next leap, and we are legitimate contenders in any match that we play. And it would just be a feeling of great satisfaction.
Paul,
and of course,
I'm afraid I'll have to interrupt and get Tasmin here. Tasmin, what's the latest?
So currently Afghanistan have just completed 50 overs. They have scored 291 for 5.
What? 291?
You know,
they were at 50 or 60.
It's been great to see what they've done with themselves actually in the last 10 overs. Just in this last power play alone, they have scored 107 runs in the last power play. Rashid coming out and just playing a brilliant innings for me. You know, he scored 35 just off 18 balls. Of these, he scored 2 fours and just 3 sixes as well. So I think it's great. I think they needed that big innings at the end. They've paced themselves well enough throughout. And this is what we've been talking about. This is what happens when you have wickets in hand.
So when you have the last power play, they lost only 2 wickets for how many runs, Tasmin, you mentioned?
In the last power play, 107 runs coming off it.
Oh my God, 107 runs. And we're talking about Afghanistan taking on Australia. Paul, you can continue with your answer. I'm sorry to have interjected there. Please continue with your Sachin Tendulkar answer.
Well, yeah, I was just saying that apart from the feeling of confirmation that we've made it, it would be. I remember that the only autograph that Don Bradman ever kept was he once acquired W.G. Grace's autograph, and it would be a feeling of in Sachin Tendulkar, you are speaking to the most famous cricketer in the world, arguably the most famous cricketer of all time. It would just be one of the great moments of your life.
Absolutely, great moments. Do you think that would have propelled Afghanistan today? The way they've scored, they paced their inning, they've kept their wickets, and finally, it was a complete onslaught, complete carnage at the end in the last 10 overs. Is that what is making you a little uncomfortable with the overall with the total that they have scored? 291 for the loss of just 5 wickets in 50. Are the Aussies crumbling now? Is the confidence crumbling now?
Well, I wouldn't say that they're crumbling yet. It's going to be the first few overs because when the lights come out at Wankiti, the ball starts to move about, things do very difficult things. So if those first few overs, it starts to move around everywhere, then the confidence will really start to crumble. But if I look at it the other way, I can say, well, if in the last 10 overs they were able to score so quickly, maybe the pitch is playing a little bit better than we had first thought. So I'm clinging to that sort of positive at the moment. Well,
absolutely. Chris, it's a twilight kind of a situation. The sun is coming down, the lights are going up, the opening bowlers are on their attack, their confidence is high, they've got the runs to defend. What do you think the bowlers will go out for? Will they pitch the ball up or will they put it a little short and play the chin music to them? Tell me.
That's going to be a little bit tricky also, like we talked about. They've got more spin on their armour, and it will be good to see the all-rounder, how he bowls. He normally bowls that back of a length. And something that I think also you talked about, lights becoming a factor there. So for me, it will be good to see whether he will pitch it up early on, but he's a tall fella, so he might get something out of that wicket. He's bowled quite well. So like I always emphasize, you got the lights on, try and see if you're getting something, on the front foot, the ball is going to move. Is it going to skid on? So for me, also, if they are using that seam up front, just try and see if there's something out of it. And their spinners, they're plus, so
you're an international fast bowler. You've always thrived at a tough situation. Tell me, is it good enough? Is this good enough to defend? Would you go to your run-up with a sense of confidence?
Absolutely good enough to defend. And for me, that's what, early on I talked about the competitive score and I was talking about, 260, but now you're talking about 290. For me as a bowler, getting in there without being complacent, I can still say this is a good score. My batters have done the job. I need to, do my part, hit the length and see what happens.
Tasmin, just take us through the batting and the notable batters in the inning today. And we think David may just join in. David, our octopus.
Yeah, definitely. So Afghanistan has batted, today quite well. David did speak about Ibrahim Zaljan this morning, and he has not let David down. I'll let you know this. I think David might have just won his bet. He said he was looking to get a little bit extra on his side today, and he believed Ibrahim Zaljan was the man to do it for him. Zaljan scored a miracle of an innings for me. He scored 129 just off 143 balls. He's the guy that batted throughout the innings, providing good foundation for everyone around him. Him and Rashid Khan sharing a 50-run plus partnership towards the end as well. He had another big partnership with Hashmatullah as well in the center. They have a 52-run partnership between the two of them as well. And another one again with Rama Saha, 83-run partnership. We've been mentioning that for an innings to actually be played well enough, leading into the last 10, you need at least 3+ partnerships of more than 50 runs or so.
Well, absolutely, more than 50 runs. Paul, we walk into a first power play. Paul, if you can hear us, what do you think is a good total here in the power play, the first power play?
For Australia, I think that the column that we in Australia put first and the rest of the world put last is the wickets. I'm just hoping that we are none or one out at the end of the first power play and that we can build into the innings because the statistic is that in that first 10 overs, that's when the wickets tend to fall in Wankhede. So that's what I'm hoping for. In terms of runs, I'd be more than happy with 60. I'm not going to be too greedy. And my main concern is, as I've said many times, the Australian middle order up against high-quality spin. Australia could look like they're going to be cruising, and it could all change in a twinkling of an eye.
Are you worried that one of the best player of spin bowling is not in your playing 11? We are talking about Steve Smith.
Absolutely. And I think that there's been a lot of talk in Australia about that Smith and Labuschagne shouldn't be in the same side. And I've never agreed with that because, there are games when you can score 420 and that's fantastic. But against this quality of opposition on this pitch, you need players who have got some of those test match skills. And I think that Labuschagne could well be a key player for Australia, and definitely not having Steve Smith in there is a big loss.
Well, Christopher, if you can hear us. Christopher, what do you read of the entire situation out here? If you were the coach, I think we will have David very soon. But Christopher, if you were to coach this side, what will you tell the Afghan players that go in with? What would you do different today?
Definitely, for me, it's more of doing the simple things right. I think they've impressed everyone in this World Cup, and there's nothing that changes when they go in today. Just be the same team that has been doing well. Just ball your areas and all these things. They will take care of themselves. That's one thing that I'll do. Just go in and enjoy. You've got the score on the board, and already I talk about them impressing a lot of people in this World Cup, and this is the moment of even finding more people that will love them the way they've been loved so far.
Absolutely. Well, while we wait for David to join us, Tasmin, you're playing this game and you're in the Afghan side. How would you bowl? You're a spinner yourself. What would be your strategy? Very interesting to get inside the minds of the players, the batters, the bowlers, and understand. And what better than people who've played for their national side for over 15 years. Tasmin, please take the honours.
Yeah, definitely. They're working out there. They're definitely opening the bowling with one seamer and one spinner as well. They might just shock us and start it off with two spin bowlers at this stage. But I think they'd want to be not entirely too unconventional about it because, Travis Head coming in on his maiden debut in the ODI World Cup, he did score 100 as well. We know that David Warner, once he gets going, he can cause disaster as well. So I think coming out there, definitely we'd want to contain the run rate, but not just contain the run rate as well, because we know we have the depth of spinners that we have as well, being able to come back and pull the game back for us if it does get away from us. But in the same sense, we want to attack early, preferably get, obviously, David Warner out ahead of Travis Head, but either one at this stage is brilliant. 2 wickets is a plus. You've got Australia definitely on the back foot by the end of the power play. But for me, it's the boundary count. Just keep the boundary count down in the first 10 overs. And I believe it's already going to set up pressure for the second power play when the field is actually spread out and it's open. Right now, it's about putting the ball in all the right places and just being consistent for me.
Well, we are very happy to have David Brooks from London joining us live. David, you got it right when you predicted that England is going to go out. That was 3 months before the World Cup started. You spoke about several things, and in the morning, you did talk about a gentleman called Ibrahim Zardan. Guess what? There are 3 highest scorers against Australia in the World Cup. 132, Neil Johnson, Zimbabwe in 1999, someone who Christopher knows perhaps pretty well. 130, Chris Harris in 1996. And today, Ibrahim Zardan has scored 129 not out. What do you have that we should also have so that we can think in the manner that you do? David, we can't hear you. You've got to repeat yourself. Just unmute if you can. David, we can't hear you. I'm afraid you've got to do something with your with unmuting yourself. Get the mics on. In the meanwhile, before we wrap up, before we get David, can you hear us? But unfortunately, we can't. Chris, What kind of a batter Neil Johnson was in 1999? Chris Mpofu. Meanwhile, David can sort his...
Yeah, Neil has always been our greatest all-rounders that we've had in Zimbabwe. He was absolutely brilliant. You know, he's the reason why I started playing the game of cricket. Him and his streak, those are the people that really made me to fall in love with the game. So he was absolutely phenomenal in 1999 in England.
Do you remember this inning particular? We are talking about 132, Neil Johnson versus Australia in 1999.
Those are the first few games that made me to fall in love with the game of cricket. So I do remember it vividly. And yeah, he was part of our success as Zimbabwe in that World Cup.
Absolutely, it was. If we can hear David. David.
Can you hear me now, Neil?
I have a question to ask. The way that you're going with your prediction, have you gotten your lottery tickets?
Well, a lottery is a game of luck. Predicting cricket is a game of looking at the form both on and off the field. And what you've got with Afghanistan is great coaching staff off the field and a top order that's really firing. Now, yeah, I did tell everyone to have a little bet on Ibrahim Zadran. I'm sorry that you can't take advantage of this in India because betting is not allowed. But the rest of us all over the world would have had a little punt on Ibrahim Zadran because as wicket-keeper, he performs a lot better when not having to keep wicket first. And get batting first, I just thought he's up for a big score. He just said in his post-match interview that he fancied his chances of scoring a century. And the fact that it is the first century in Afghan history, and the fact that he is saying that with so much confidence, tells me that cricket is as much played in the mind as it is on the field. And in that top order of Afghanistan...
We've got 30 seconds before I go into our Aussie friend and get his last words. But do you think they've got a big total or a big heart to defend?
Well, my own view is that Afghanistan will win this match. I haven't changed my view since the start of the game when there were 4-1 shots. They're now much shorter than that. The money's piling onto them now. They've got 4 spinners. And
yes.
Where's Steve Smith when you need him? He's missing in action.
Well, it's the perfect time to go on to our Aussie friend, but thank you enough for putting all the predictions, putting the statistics together and explaining to our fans why did you think that Afghanistan was the favourite. But before we end, let's go and get our Aussie friend. Mr. Paul, are you happy with the way things are happening or are you concerned now? 30 seconds and we wrap our show.
I'm concerned partially because on social media, I made the very strong prediction that Afghanistan wouldn't make the semi-finals, and I have been receiving hundreds of messages from people in Afghanistan telling me that I'm wrong, and I think I may well be about 3 hours away from starting to be proven to be very wrong, and it could come down to, if Afghanistan win this, a blockbuster game, Afghanistan versus South Africa. If they win that, they could qualify for the semi-finals, and it would be amazing.
Well, absolutely. On that note, we thank all our friends, stars, former players, current players to join us and give us their insights, their views and their way of looking at this game.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.